Wow. Good morning, everyone. Welcome and bienvenidos to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Asheville. I'm Charlie Marks, your worship associate for the service. When we say welcome, we mean it. We really, really mean it. Come, whoever you are. No matter where you are from, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, whomever you love, know that you are welcome here. And we're glad you're here, members and friends and visitors. You're visiting us on YouTube and want to learn more about us, there's a link in the chat box where you can learn all about UU Asheville. And while you're in the chat, we invite you to introduce yourself, tell us where you're Zooming from, and say hi. A big thanks to our guest musicians, Paul Moore and Brett Johnson, and to our crack tech staff, Steve Carter and Jason Smith. Now let us prepare for worship with today's centering music.
Mother, mother, I hate to see you cry, and brother, brother, I had to watch you die. We gotta find a better way to bring some love in here today. And Father, Father, you say don't escalate. You taught us violence ain't the answer, that only love can conquer hate. We gotta find a better way to get some justice here today. There's too many of you crying, and no, brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. Oh, we've got to find a way to bring some understanding here today. Oh, picket lines and picket signs, don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see, know what's going on. Yeah, what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. You tell me what's going on.
We light our chalice this morning with some words from Reverend Mark Ward. Here we gather that together we might discover and honor that which is of greatest worth, that we might learn and remember the duties we owe to one another, to humankind, and the earth.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Paul and Brett. That was really moving. Important. I'm Reverend Kathy Harrington. I'm serving this congregation as the interim lead minister. This morning I have a sermon for you, what every minister wishes their congregation knew. And maybe not every minister. We're all a little different, but I hope you'll enjoy it. But I want to open with these words from Amanda Pape, Reverend Amanda Pape, The Home That Love Made. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love that the founders felt when they planned out these walls and raised these beams above us. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love of all who have worshiped here, those who have celebrated and grieved here, the babies dedicated, couples married, and families mourned here. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love of our children as they learn and they laugh together, and our youth as they grow into their own sense of purpose and meaning. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love of staff who've served it, full of the hopes for this congregation, full of their hard work and their acts of dedication. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love of the choir, the love made so clear and the voices lifted here on Sunday mornings. This is the home that love made. It is full of our love. The love of this community, despite our differences and our disagreements, the love that holds us together as a people. This is the home that love made. Can you feel it? This is our home. May the love be with us always, and it is good to be together again. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Love
you. And so now it's time for our wisdom story. And I think it's going to be a fun one. And y'all are busy over there, but the pictures of the story will be on the screen. It's called Chester's Way by Kevin Henkes. Chester had his own way of doing things. Hello, my name is Chester. I like croquet and peanut butter and making my bed. He always cut his sandwiches diagonally. He always got out of bed on the same side, and he never left the house without double knotting his shoes. Chester always had the same thing for breakfast, toast with jam and peanut butter. And he always carried a miniature first aid kit in his pocket just in case. You definitely have a mind of your own, Chester's mother said. That's one way to put it, said his father. Chester's best friend Wilson was exactly the same way. That's why they were best friends. Chester wouldn't play baseball unless Warren played, and they would never swung at the first pitch or slid head first. Wilson wouldn't ride his bike unless Chester wanted to, and they always used their hand signals. If Chester was hungry, Wilson was too, and they rarely ate between meals. Some days I can't tell those two apart, said Wilson's mother. Me either, said Wilson's father. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester, that's the way it was. Oops. So they loved to go on picnics, and once, when Wilson accidentally swallowed a watermelon seed and cried because he was afraid that a watermelon plant would grow inside him, Chester swallowed one too. That's sweet. When I was a little girl, my brother told me that I would have watermelon vines growing out my ears. He was wrong. Chester duplicated his Christmas list every year and gave a copy to Wilson because they always wanted the same things anyway. And so for Halloween, they dressed as things that went together: salt and pepper shakers, 2 mittens on a string, ham and eggs. They really were 2 peas in a pod. And so in the spring, Chester and Wilson shared the same umbrella, and in the winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. And in the fall, they raked leaves together. In the summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. And then Lily moved into the neighborhood. I am Lily. I am the queen of everything. I like everything. Lily had her own way of doing things. She wore Band-Aids all over her arms and legs to look brave. She talked backwards to herself sometimes so no one would know what she was saying. And she never left the house without one of her nifty disguises. Lily waved at all the cars that passed by, even if she didn't know who was in them. And she always carried a loaded squirt gun in her back pocket, just in case. She definitely has a mind of her own, said Chester. That's one way to put it, said Wilson. When Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said they were busy. When she called them up on the phone, they disguised their voices and said they weren't home. If Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson would cross to the other side and hide. She's something else, said Chester. Looks like it, said Wilson. And so one day, while Chester and Wilson were practicing their hand signals, some older boys rode by, popping wheelies. They circled Chester and Wilson and yelled personal remarks. Chester and Wilson didn't know what to do. And just when they were about to give up hope, a fierce-looking cat with horrible fangs jumped out of the bushes and frightened the older boys away. And, "Are you who I think you are?" Chester asked the cat. "Of course," she replied. "Thank you, Lily," said Chester. "You're welcome, Chester." "Thank you, Lily," said Wilson. "I'm glad you were wearing a disguise, and I'm glad you had your squirt gun." "I always do, just in case." And so afterward, Chester invited Lily over for lunch. "You have a mouse cup," said Lily. "Of course," said Chester. "I do too," said Lily. Wow, same here. So Chester and Wilson cut their sandwiches diagonally, and Lily asked Chester's mother if she could have a cookie cutter. And she made stars and bells and flowers. That is neat, said Chester. Wow. So that night, Lily invited Chester and Wilson to sleep over. You have a nightlight, said Chester. Of course, said Lily. I do too. Same here, said Wilson. And so Chester and Wilson wanted toast with jam and peanut butter for breakfast the next morning. Boring, said Lily. Try this instead. And she decorated her, I don't know if you can see that. She decorated her toast to look like a funny face. Well, after that, when Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, guess what? They said yes. And when she called them up on the phone, they had pleasant voices. And if Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson waved and ran to catch up with her. Chester and Wilson taught Lily hand signals, and she taught them how to pop wheelies. Lily taught Chester and Wilson how to talk backwards, and they taught her how to double knot her shoes. Some days I can't tell those three apart, said Lily's mother. Me either, said Lily's father. Chester and Wilson and Lily. Lily and Wilson and Chester. And that's the way it was. For Halloween, they dressed as three blind mice. For Christmas, Lily gave Chester and Wilson nifty disguises. And they gave her a box of multicolored shoelaces, extra long for double knotting. They loved to go on picnics together, and Chester and Wilson told Lily about how they each had swallowed a watermelon seed once, and Lily swallowed 3 of them. I'll grow a watermelon plant for each of us, she said. So in the spring, Wilson and Lily and Chester shared the same umbrella, and in the winter they never threw snowballs. They raked leaves together. In the summer they reminded each other to wear sunscreen. Chester and Wilson and Lily, Lily and Wilson and Chester, it was just the way it was. And then Victor moved into the neighborhood. The end. Or is it? I hope you enjoyed this story. And what do you think the message of that story is? Right? We need to be open and welcome new people into the lives because they expand who we are. And so now, let's see, I've dropped my script. Can I borrow yours a minute? Okay. Children and youth, we invite you to religious exploration. You'll be sung out of the sanctuary and then meet group leaders in the foyer or Sandberg Hall and go to classes together. Look for the adults holding a sign with your grade to find your group. And parents, if you're new or visiting today, please escort your children to their class to meet their group leaders and find out where to pick them up after worship. And now we'll sing you to your classes. It's a long lot of words. Surround you as you go, go in peace. Surround you as you go. I'll be done here in a minute. As you go, live in peace. As your love is here, always. As you go, as you go. All right, so now it's the time for our centering. In the center of our service and in the center of our lives. Let us pause to honor the silences of the world. Open our hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. I know that Reverend Claudia did a sermon on prayer, and so I chose a prayer by Judith Quarles called How Shall We Pray? Let us join our hearts and minds in the quiet of meditation and prayer. How shall we pray? Let us be open to the silence. Let us hear the sounds in this room, the noises outside, the comfortable murmur from the children. Let us begin to hear the soft beating of our hearts, and let us listen intently for messages from within. Next, let us feel gratitude for our lives and for our beautiful earth. As hard as life gets, as sad or lonely as we sometimes feel, let us always be warmed by the gifts of this life. Let us hold in our hearts all those known or unknown who are in need. May we find ourselves the energy and knowledge to bring care to the world. And finally, let us be aware of the blessing that is not ours alone, that it is not ours alone to do the work of the world. Love and community work wonders that we by ourselves could never manage alone. In this time of silence, let us form our own prayers out of the concerns of our heart. Amen. Let us now share a moment of silence. Now is time for acknowledging our joys and sorrows with a candle lighting ritual. If you're in the sanctuary, please feel free to come forward and light a candle. And if you're online, you can type in the chat box any joy or sorrow that you would like to share with the congregation. If you have shared a joy, know that we rejoice with you. And if you have shared a sorrow, know that you are held in love and care by this community.
People, get ready. The clock is ticking, and I'm talking about the Ministerial Search Committee right now. Remember the survey and the cottage meetings that most of us participated in? You told the search committee what you wanted us to look for. 3 things jumped out: pulpit skills, a commitment to intergenerational service, and an active social justice program in our wider community. Last summer, one day, my phone rang, and you know who you are who called me, but I won't out you right now. And you said, "Charlie, we'd like you to be on the Ministerial Search Committee." Oh dear. I said politely, "Can I think about it? I'll call you back tomorrow." Sure. I went to the other room and spoke with Rita, my wife, who'd been on search in another congregation. She said, "Jump on it, do it, you will, it's the right thing to do." I picked up the phone, I said, "All right, I'll do this, thank you." But I had a little reservation. More than a little one, maybe. In our previous congregation, search had failed. It didn't produce a new settled minister for us that year, so our pre-fired interim got to stay on for another year. I don't know how well we do with that scheme here. But anyway, I continued to worry, and we went through the process. We didn't invent this. The UU up in Boston, transitions office, has been through this 1,000 times. They know how to do it. We said, we'll do it your way. Fast forward to 11:49 on Monday morning, January 2nd, when the UU Transitions Office released the names of those who were interested in us. My security clearance doesn't allow me to tell you how many was on that list. Let's just call it a bunch. An eye-opening bunch of people said, wow, you guys sound like something we'd like to do, and we'd like to come to Asheville. The committee got together, and we spent days and weeks reading through the resumes and watching sermons of this bunch. After a couple of weeks, we trimmed the bunch down to a half a bunch. And this half a bunch were sparkling folks. Now what are we going to do? Another week went by, and the half a bunch became a quarter of a bunch. And boy, the quarter of a bunch were just dynamite. We had lunch somewhere and a big meeting, and we arm wrestled the quarter of a bunch down to an eighth of a bunch, and that's where we are. We've got the next couple of months to meet these folks and do some stuff. We've checked them out. I mean, they've all got a security clearance. We talked to everybody. We talked to their kindergarten teacher. We talked to their butlers and their housekeepers and their gardeners, their chauffeurs, their private pilots, their yacht captains. We talked to everybody. And we still got an eighth of a bunch, and nobody has dropped themselves out of this. If we win the Powerball, I think we'd like to hire them all, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen. So over the next couple of months, we'll talk to these folks and get a feeling for, and we got to sell ourselves too. That's a fairly easy job. So we'll talk to them, and in a couple of months, we're all going to know. People, get ready.
I want a yacht, Charlie. What does the perfect minister look like? Well, I'll tell you, the perfect minister is 26 years old and draws from 30 years of ministerial experience. That minister preaches sermons that are thoroughly researched, intellectually challenging, deeply practical, will make you laugh and move you to tears, and all in only 15 minutes. They condemn injustice but never offend anyone, and they work for little pay because, after all, it is a calling, right? But they dress professionally, maintain an extensive library, drive a respectable car, and tithe 10% to the church and to Habitat for Humanity. The ideal minister is a humanistic, theist Christian with a little c, and a pagan, Jewish, Buddhist leanings, and draws wisdom from all the wisdom traditions, most Sundays. They meet with leaders, congregants, staff, community leaders, morning, noon, and night, while maintaining good boundaries and practicing self-care. The perfect minister smiles all the time while keeping a straight face, using a sense of humor, and is seriously dedicated to the work of the church without becoming discouraged or complaining. They make 15 pastoral calls a day, spend all their spare time recruiting new members, and they're never out of the office. You get the picture, right? So, I want to tell you a story. Philip Gulley is a Quaker pastor, and he writes these wonderful little books about a fictional town in Indiana and a fictional Quaker meeting house, which isn't always quite so fictional. He draws from his own experience. He wrote a story that I think will be perfect for you to, I'll sum it up for you. It's called The Clothesline. It does speak to those unrealistic expectations that we have for our ministers. And because I'm your interim minister, I'm going to tell you some things that your settled minister might not feel comfortable saying. It's my job. I'm pre-fired, and you can be mad at me, but these are the things that you need to know to have a really long and happy relationship with your new minister. So the story is about a Mennonite couple, Dan and Joy, who move into the neighborhood just right almost next door to Sam and his young family. Sam serves the Quaker meeting house as their pastor. He has a friend named Ray Stewart, who's a Quaker, but Ray, of course, doesn't come to the Quaker meeting that Sam pastors. But Ray advised Sam to quickly go over there, invite them to worship before the disciples preacher gets wind of them. So Sam did. He went over, he introduced himself, invited them to worship, not knowing that simple invitation, that gesture would change his life forever. The new neighbors started fixing up the old house. They dug up, they didn't have a driveway, so they dug it up, and then they used the dirt from creating a new driveway to make raised flower beds. And then they added a clothesline to the backyard. Sam's wife, Joan, noticed all these improvements, and she advised Sam that he would be able to put raised flower beds in their yard after he got through digging up the yard for a brick sidewalk. So Joan had a conversation with Joy after worship one day, and she was telling Joan about the joy of sleeping on sheets that had been sun-dried. Have you ever done that? Oh my God, it's so amazing. What happened to clotheslines? So you can guess what happened next, right? Sam had to put up a clothesline. So here's what he writes. This is an excerpt from his story. People from our church come to visit, and we sit outside underneath the shade trees while our family's underwear flaps on the line. My slender sons have tiny Mickey Mouse and Tigger underwear. In comparison, my underwear are large and ratty. They beat the air like flags. My fellow Quakers steal glances at them and shudder. It's hampered my ministry with them. I stand in the pulpit and preach about such lofty and wondrous things as salvation by grace, and they ignore me. They've seen my underwear. I'm just another bozo with holes in his skivvies. I'm probably going to have to leave this church and start over somewhere else. He goes on to talk about really how much of a blessing that really was for people to stop thinking of one another as perfect, to let down our masks and just love people for who they are. And so I want Jason to put up some slides. These are some other unrealistic expectations. This is Van Gogh's opinion of what church is like. That was 1882. Okay, next slide is Mr. Bean goes to church. And this is, they're on an island, stranded. Don't worry, I give my $100,000 a year to my church. My pastor will find us. You can't see that. We're first-time visitors. Do you misinterpret Scripture every Sunday, or is this a special sermon series? Okay. And this is not so unreal. You really got to jump on this week's sermon. This is the pastor's wife. Already working on the conclusion and still 3 miles from church. Can we get a refund if the sermon isn't that great? This is I don't know why I put that there, passive-aggressive Christmas. The decorating committee was unhappy with the minister's request for a smaller tree this year. Oh, so pastor, you work on Sundays and the other 6 days you just hang out. Yeah, we work 1 hour a week. Oh, okay, and that's the main picture right there. All right, so thank you, Jason. Ministers are not superhuman. They are human. And this is one important thing that we all want you to understand. Many of us left lucrative jobs to take out debt to go to seminary. To become a Unitarian Universalist minister is a long process. I spent 5 years, and then I spent another 3 years after that getting my full fellowship. Ministry is a calling, true, but pay your ministers fairly and even generously if possible. Asheville's cost of living does not reflect the geo-index of what the pay scale is, or how the UUA determines what fair compensation looks like. Asheville's cost of living is 6% higher than the national average and 16% higher than anywhere else in the state. The median cost of a house right now, which has gone down, is $427,000. Where and how will you help your minister find affordable housing? And ministers are usually involved in the budget creation process, and they find themselves in a difficult position. It's hard for them to advocate for themselves during this process, especially if other staff need raises as well. And here's another one. Respect the minister's time off. They need downtime, time with their family and friends to stay mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy in order to continue to do the work of the congregation. So this is my own experience, and this is why I bring this up. If you see your minister at the gym or a yoga class, don't rush over to talk to them about church. Or please don't put your mat next to them in yoga class or behind them, which happened to me. This is their time for personal care, self-care. It's their private time. Let them have their private time. And when your minister is at a social event, regardless of what it is, and congregants are present, they are working. Invite them to dinner in the symphony, but if they say no, don't take it personally. Understand that the minister is here to be your pastor, your priest, your minister, your prophet, but not your friend. Whenever the minister is with you, they are working. And this is true even when you're playing. If the minister's at a church picnic, they're working. If you run into them at the grocery store and you have a conversation with them, they're working. Just wave and say hi and walk on. And don't make assumptions about your minister's belief system or their theology. If they happen to use the word God, Goddess, Jesus, Buddha, universe, whatever in the sermon, it's our job as ministers to be able to draw from all of the great wisdom traditions. And so that includes using the word God and Jesus at times. Try to be open-minded and try not to be triggered by religious language. I can't speak for all UU ministers, but I can speak for many. We get tired of being, having to avoid, having to censor our words for fear of offending, somebody getting triggered. Try not to be triggered. Try to be curious. Less judgment, more curiosity. Don't send emails or ask questions on Sunday morning unless it's an emergency. Now, if you've done this in the past, that's okay, but try not to do it in the future. And this is one thing that one minister wrote, stand up to the haters. Every minister will have detractors. That's okay, because that's really a part of ministry and we understand that. But you, the thoughtful layperson, need to be concerned when you hear congregants speaking openly in ways that undermine the minister's authority and their role in the congregation. This is how church drama begins. Don't engage in triangulation or gossip. It actually only takes a few people, about 13 to 15 people in a congregation, regardless of the size, to create conflict that will result in the minister being forced to leave. In our UU faith, we call it negotiated resignation. and it's painful for everyone. Many congregants have been surprised when they came to a congregational meeting to see things happening really fast and they're not clear about what's happening. The next thing you know, the congregation has voted to remove a minister. So it's been said that there are three kinds of people in a church: those who make things happen, those who let things happen, and those who go, "What happened?" And this is true. So if a small group of people, disruptors, can create trouble, then surely a small or large group of supporters can counteract that trouble. None of us expect to find conflict in our religious communities. That's not why we come to church. And sometimes we're caught off guard when it happens. Conflict is really a opportunity, actually, to explore and to realize things that are always running smoothly will just kind of stagnate. So there needs to be a little tension. Be comfortable with that tension. And also, stay. Don't run from conflict. The church needs you. And here's one thing I thought of this morning that I didn't write. Don't sermon shop. If the title of the sermon is like, meh, I don't think so. Come to church anyway. Your presence really matters. The dynamic of the church changes when you stay home. Come to church. And then here's another one that someone wrote. If a board member disagrees how the minister's handled something, that board member needs to speak directly to the minister. Passive-aggressive comments at board meetings to inadvertently express discontent are harmful to the relationship. And then especially harmful when they go unnoticed by the rest of the board. This is not how you sustain a healthy relationship with your minister. Congregations need to develop a healthy immune system. This goes for all the staff and the congregational leaders, not just the minister. Speak to the minister. Don't speak about the minister. And notice their effort. Boy, it really means a lot when somebody takes the time to send a little email or message. Your sermon really spoke to me, or something that you did really helped. And take responsibility for your church home, the home that love built. Don't expect your minister to do everything. Don't pass along anonymous feedback. It's impossible to act on anonymous feedback. And don't create a disruptive behavior policy. The UUA has some templates online that you can look at that will certainly help stop discord. Now, take the leadership seriously. If you've never been a leader in a UU congregation, you might want to consider trying that. Some people feel like, they just aren't leadership material, but, it's not true. You would be surprised, and it will help you grow. It's for leadership positions, for non-anxious, emotionally mature church members, it is spiritually deepening. It's a privilege. So volunteer to serve. UU Asheville is your beloved community. It's your home away from home. If you're already serving, thank you. Encourage your friends, your other congregants to serve. So I want you to know that there is no working minister who could not give you a list of things that they think they're not doing well enough, or should do more of, or fail to do. Every night they go to bed feeling like they're not done, they haven't finished, or that they had failed. Ministry is a work that is never done, and ministers are really hard on themselves. An email, a note card, remember a birthday or an anniversary or an ordination anniversary. Small gestures make a big impact. Let your minister be human and imperfect, not good at everything. Sometimes balls will drop. They'll forget a meeting or lose track of something. And here's another important thing. Let your minister define how they want to share their family. Let them define what that looks like. Let your minister and pastoral visitors know when you need help or care. Let us do our job. Yous are so darn independent. Please. And don't remark about the minister's body, clothing, makeup, hair, size, shape, health, family decisions. Please just leave their personal life to them. Respect their privacy. I remember when my mother passed away in October. I was deeply moved by the kindness, the comforting soup, the bread, the meals, and the caring cards. Those things matter. I remember from my first settlement, I came home to find a crate of peaches on my porch. One of my congregants had an orchard. Other days I'd find tomatoes or green beans. But on the other hand, one morning on my study day, I was working on my sermon, and I do my best work in my pajamas in the morning with my hair looking like a fright wig. And I looked up to see a congregant peering through the glass window in my door. He had wanted to drop off some papers. Don't drop in unannounced. Don't do that. And you better believe I bought some stained glass to put in front of that window. Having said all of this, and I know this is hard stuff, I love being a minister. It's a privilege, and all ministers feel this way. If they don't, they leave. I have been serving congregations for the past 20 years. It's a vocation, and vocations have their challenges. So the point of this sermon was to just give you a glimpse of the challenges that can be avoided when the minister-congregation relationship is respectful, open, honest, and caring. Your minister will be called to serve this congregation, and you are also called to serve. How well and how long you can do this sacred work together depends on the quality of your relationship. And first impressions mean a lot, so make your new minister feel welcome. You'll meet them during candidating week, and then they'll be moving over the summer. They'll be saying goodbye to the congregation they're serving. Many of them will have a lot of grief. It's hard, because these are people they loved. It's hard, it's exhausting, and it's physically, emotionally exhausting to make this kind of change. So when they get here, they're going to be tired. They're going to be excited about the possibility, but they're going to be tired. So give them time and space to get settled in. Don't expect to see them in the pulpit the first Sunday in August. Maybe not the second, the third. Some ministers wait until the Sunday after Labor Day. When I went to Chattanooga with my mother, I was going to be there 4 years. They gave me a gift basket, and it had some fruit and some sweet things in it and snacks, but it had gift cards to some local restaurants, so that during that time of unpacking, where we didn't even know where the pots and pans were, we were able to enjoy the area a little bit and have a good meal. My first Sunday there in Chattanooga, they had a big potluck after church. Gainesville did the same thing. I was only serving Gainesville for 1 year, but they made me feel welcome. I was moved. So your new minister is going to arrive with hopes and dreams just like you have, leaving a life behind and coming forward to serve with you. Together you will create beloved community, welcome the stranger, and you will transform and minister to a broken world. And in the process, you might find that you're transformed as well. It's often like a marriage. There will be ups and downs, but when there's respect for one another, a shared mission and vision, a mutual commitment, you will thrive and grow and be transformational to many near and far because of who you are and because of who you will become together. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle.
embraces all the living. Wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, eye to eye with laughter and elation.
Wow, that was a lot of advice. Let's try to remember 10% of that, shall we? I bet we have some visitors with us today. One of the things we like to do is, if you're willing, stand up and say hi. Tell us where you're from. We've got some ushers with hand mics around, so let's try this side first. Who have we got? There we are.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Jessica from Tampa, just visiting for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Come on, this side's winning. This side's got some, okay, come on.
Hi, I'm Monica. I live here in Nashville.
Hey.
Hello, I'm Clay. I live in Marshall, a little bit of a drive, but glad to be here.
Oh, hooray for this side.
I'm Steve. This is my wife, Anita. We're from Silva.
Any more for any more? Oh, here we are.
Good morning. I'm David Ray, visiting on a whim from Charleston. Good to see you, friends. Thank you.
Going once, going twice. Come on. All right, thanks very much. Please join us afterwards in Sandberg Hall. We got some pretty good coffee and who knows what else. If you tuned in late and missed the announcement slides, they're all in Wednesday's weekly e-news email and on the homepage of our website. After Sandberg Hall, don't look at your watch and decide to go home. There's no football on TV. Come back in here and we're going to have a discussion on the eighth principle. It's eighth principle reflection circle, 12:30 to 1:30 in the sanctuary. No tickets required. Come on in. Our community plate this month is the UU Asheville Hetland Scholarship, and we have a special guest. Ariel will come and tell us all about it.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Ariel Jacobson, and I am the Scholarship Coordinator at Asheville City Schools Foundation. Just like a raise of hands, how many people have heard of the Asheville City Schools Foundation before? Great! So If you haven't heard of it, we are a local nonprofit in town, and our mission is to collaborate with communities to do whatever it takes to make sure that every student has the opportunity to thrive. And I want to share with you guys some things I've been thinking about as the scholarship coordinator recently, and that is that Asheville High School has the largest racial achievement gap in North Carolina between white and black students. And 5 years ago at the foundation, we conducted a listening project with students at Asheville High School. And we asked black and brown students to, tell us what their school community, what the Asheville community can do to make sure that they feel seen and heard and held within their school, within their classrooms. And one of the number one things that these students voiced was for adults, for their teachers, for their coaches, for people that they know from church in the Asheville community to encourage them to take honor NAP classes, to go play baseball for a semester, see how it feels, to go pursue higher education, to go to trade school, just to say that they believe in them, that they see them, and that they're rooting for them. And when I think about this scholarship, it makes me emotional because I think about all of you contributing to this fund for a student to go pursue higher education. And I think that is tied so deeply with the incredible legacy that Mel Hetland left within this congregation and within the Asheville community at large. He was an educator that pursued social justice actively, and I think serves as an incredible example of what we can do when we come together to invest in children's futures. So I will be outside after this service, and if you have any questions about the foundation, about this scholarship fund, let me know and we can talk about it. And I think it's the first Sunday of every month where your donations go towards the Mel Hetland Scholarship. So I think this is the Sunday for it, which is exciting. So thank you all so much. I deeply, deeply appreciate you and appreciate all you do.
What she said is true. All the cash that ends up in today's collection plate on the first Sunday goes directly to the Mel Hetland Scholarship. And I think we know this, but let's remind ourselves that this is the UU Asheville Scholarship. No money from outside our congregation goes to this scholarship. It's ours. Where are we now? I think we're ready for the offering. Today's offering will be gratefully received. If this is your first time here, let the collection plate pass you by. This service is our gift to you, and your presence is your gift to us. So for the gifts of your time, talent, presence, and financial resources, we are grateful.
close this morning's worship with these words by Reverend Barbara Wells Ten Hove. May each of us have enough trust in life that our fears will burn away. May each of us have enough hope in the future that we will let go of despair and work to leave a better world for our children. May each of us have enough love for each other that we will abandon hate and never fail to notice the great miracle that is the human spirit. May we each have enough courage to face the challenges of our troubled world so that we may act with trust, hope, and love in the face of fear, despair, and hatred. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing our closing song, Longtime Son, followed by the postlude for a time of fellowship in Sandberg Hall. If you need to leave during the postlude, please do so quietly so others can enjoy the music.
May the longtime sun shine upon you, and all love surround you. May the pure light within you guide your way home. May the longtime sun shine upon you, and all love surround you. May the pure light within you guide your way home.
Thank you.
So we're going. Okay, for the postlude, we're going to sing along on verses 1, 3, and 6 to I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain, strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain in my soul, in my soul.
Go in peace. Blessed be. Join us in the sanctuary for coffee where we